Давайте разом відкриємо перше послання.
Давайте молитися.
Брати та сестри, заспокойтесь, будь ласка.
Давайте молитися, Ніколай.
Брати та сестри, заспокойтесь, брати і сестри.
Genuinely, what happens should American fascism eventually dissipate? How will we hold accountable to those reporters? I don't know, man. I don't even know how to begin to think about American fascism ending, since it seems impossible to combat. Recall the weeks of hand-wringing about some U.S. media assuming correctly that the entity dropping 99.9% of the bombs on Gaza bombed the Al Ahli hospital courtyard. 543 days and 150 plus attacks on medical facilities later, I can't think of a fake media scandal that has aged worse. According to the New York Times, 1,500 Hamas PIJ rockets landed in Israel in the first 3 months of the conflict and killed 12 people, but one errant PIJ rocket landed in Gaza and killed 250 plus. Some really bad luck, I guess. Nothing else to see here. Move on. Yeah. After said fake scandal, almost every outlet immediately added the pejorative qualifier, according to the Hamas-run health ministry, to discredit the increasingly gruesome and obscene body counts. This was essential to suppressing opposition to the war, in air quotes, in its early weeks. Notice how the cumulative mentions of Hamas-run health ministry skyrocket after the Al Ahli Arab hospital bombing. With no mention, of course, that the Hamas-run health ministry figures had been used for years by the U.S. State Department, Human Rights Watch, and Israeli intelligence. You are fucking disgusting. Go back to Istanbul if you don't like it. Your leftist views and identity politics is 98% of what's wrong. The rest is China destroying... What? Aw. I couldn't read the whole thing. It's so annoying. Guys, stop banning these fucking douchebags while I'm in the process of fucking reading what they're saying, okay? Please. What is the username? Here, I'm unbanning them. You are fucking disgusting. Go back to fucking Istanbul if you don't like it. Your leftist views and identity politics is 98% of what's wrong. The rest is China destroying us from within. Can you even explain fascism, or are you just listening to your brainwashing tactics? I love that this guy doesn't understand that China is not destroying the United States of America. It's the people that you probably voted for and you like that is actively dismantling the United States of America, whether it be our due process, whether it be our First Amendment protections. It's not China doing that. It's Donald Trump doing that. It's also Donald Trump working at the behest of those very same billionaires that have undermined every aspect of American existence up until this very moment. But of course, you will never understand that because you're laser focused on dumb fuck nonsense like identity politics is what's ruining this country. Yeah, it's actually trans people and undocumented migrants that is the reason why your rent is unaffordable and seemingly keeps going up. It's trans people and undocumented migrants that is the reason why you can't get a fucking job where you can actually, with a single wage, be able to pay for rent, maybe even get a wife one day, maybe have some children one day. It's actually trans people and undocumented immigrants that's the reason why you will never be able to retire at a reasonable age. Perhaps it's not that, and people are just simply moving you in that direction because they know you're stupid enough to you're stupid enough to dive into that bait head first every single fucking time. There's perhaps no funnier moment where you can be complaining about this sort of shit while also simultaneously be like, you're disgusting. Go back to your own country. I'm an American citizen, by the way. Okay. So sucks to suck, dumb fuck. But the idea where you're like, right, they've been destroying our country since the 90s when Clinton brought it into the WTO. Okay, dude. Nobody forced American capital to move to China for manufacturing. Okay? They did that. They actually designed it so that they could do that. And no, China joining the World Trade Organization happened decades after what you're talking about. What you're doing here is talking about NAFTA and mistaking NAFTA for other free trade other free trade agreements. Not that it matters. It doesn't fucking matter. Because every single person that engaged in this shit did it for one reason and one reason only, to put profits over the interests of American people. But you think it's a Democrat thing. It's not just a Democrat thing. It's a Democrat and Republican thing, okay? That's the difference. But notice what is not notice who is not responsible for any of this? The fucking woke identity politics that seemingly occupies a big chunk of your fucking mind. So dumb.
The story will continue in.
Can you imagine this kind of coverage? I mean, I know we say this all the time, but like against Israel. In spite of this, think about how much people have soured on Israel, regardless of the fact that the media never covers it like this. It's shocking to see 60 Minutes critically cover a foreign power lasered 9 children in a fucking in a playground. Israel does it on a daily basis, and yet I thought it was totally fucking appropriate. Or at least they dance around the issue pretty aggressively.
In a moment.
Oh, don't support Ukraine? Is that a sign we shouldn't support Ukraine either? Wait, what? What a terrible way to make an assertion over a totally separate country. First of all, what's happening to Ukraine is unironically what has happened to other global South countries in general. Ukraine's economy was basically akin to a fucking global South developing nation economy even before the invasion. Is this mega communism? Yeah. Make up your own goddamn mind. What do you mean? I've talked about this before. The reasons as to why a lot of countries outside of the sphere of American influence actually look to Russia as the good side in this conflict is because they see this action as Russia penetrating through the global hegemonic superpower status that America has. So anyone and everyone that fucking fights back against that, they see as a good thing. Okay, that's it. That's it. They understandably see America as the big bad, and they look to Russia as a country that is fighting against the big bad, and therefore is, at least for the time being, their ally. Okay? If you're confused by why there's so many countries that actually are pro-Russia in this process, that's where it comes from. That's it. In terms of Russian action in Ukraine, as a state, as the regional power, Russia has responsibilities. And my assessment is that they completely fucking cast aside their responsibilities by intervening and illegally invading and occupying Ukraine. They knew that Ukraine was not going to join NATO, and yet they still invaded Ukraine. It was a spectacular failure. That's it. Now Donald Trump is doing everything in his power to at least pack this up, because in his mind, he thinks like intervention in Ukraine that predated the invasion is all lib shit. He thinks personally that this is just like liberal nonsense. But I don't know. I don't know how we would ever pack this up without looking outright servile to Russian interests in a way that is impossible to avoid, impossible to turn a blind eye to. Like, he is just, the only way to end this is if you just say, look, you've had too many casualties. You have to literally listen to any and all demands that Russia makes. We are not offering you any more support as the United States of America, and that's it. Yeah, Eastern Ukraine is now Russian territory. We recognize it, blah, 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 blah. And some analysts do think that that is what's going to happen. I am not in the prediction game when it comes to Ukraine. As you guys know, been there, done that. Not the best idea. Okay. But well, having said that, I don't think that Vladimir Putin is going to behave in a reasonable manner here. He has not so far, and I don't think there's any reason for him to behave in the reasonable manner, because he understands that, like, Trump also has internal pressure to end this, and he understands the resentment that Trump has towards Zelenskyy, so he's using that to his advantage. That's why even after all of this shit, even after all of the ceasefire negotiations and yada, 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 what did Vladimir Putin do? He kept fucking pummeling. He keeps blowing up different parts of Ukraine because seemingly he's the one who wants to delay the ceasefire process. Ironically enough, it was initially Zelenskyy that wanted to delay it because that was incredibly fucking stupid, for the record. But it's clear that Vladimir Putin also is not exactly on board with a ceasefire negotiation either. No.
I think without the United States, we will suffer great losses.
Russia can't have been sure that Ukraine would never join NATO, given that NATO kept breaking promises by expanding eastwards. Last thing Putin wants is for him to die, Ukraine to join, and all Russians know him as the person who allowed NATO back into Russia in a corner, not defending the invasion, just the point that Ukraine never joining NATO. Yeah, no, Ukraine was never joining NATO. If Russia, I'm sorry, and for the record, I think Vladimir Putin knew that as well. I think he just wanted to leave a mark, like, on his way out before he dies. I think he wanted to be the guy who took back parts of Russian Empire territory. I think even NATO in and of itself is just like part of the equation. I think it was a legacy move. Because if you want to stop Ukraine from joining NATO, the best possible thing you can do is what the Russians were doing in terms of trade negotiations, which is to have decent relations with trade partners in Europe and keep focusing on that.
Human, our destiny.
It's so funny because, like, with the exception of America and the American State Department, zero people thought that Russia would invade Ukraine. Like, it's really interesting to have this conversation in America with an audience that primarily consumes American news. Because if you were the only people on the planet that were like, oh, this is definitely happening. Ukrainians did not think it was happening. Russians did not think it was happening. Nobody thought it was happening. The only people that knew it was happening as a certainty was Western intelligence and Vladimir Putin. Putin and the libs, yeah. What did they know? So, you know, there are a lot. I mean, Zelenskyy certainly didn't think it was happening. You're right on that. Leading diplomats that have met Putin before and during the war always said he pulls out maps of Katerina the Great. He definitely wants to be in the history books. I mean, I think he likes, he's a Duginist, he's a follower of Duginist thought. Like, I don't think that's lib shit to assume. I think that there is a validity to that. You know? Only Tim Pool knew? Yeah. We saw them doing drills by Ukraine's border. Yeah, they did that every year. That's the difference. They did that every year and then scaled it back. Yeah, so much so that Zelenskyy was telling Western leaders to chill the fuck out with this kind of statement. Look, I've talked to Ukrainians who have very interesting points of view on this. I don't even want to bring it up, but as a Ukrainian, it was pretty obvious they will invade. I moved from Ukraine years before that, specifically because my family who are from the East were always thinking it's only a matter of when. I mean, yeah, if you moved from the East, then you most likely were already in an area where there was constant back and forth. At least you were close in proximity to, I assume, the back and forth that was happening inside of Ukrainian borders already in violation of the Minsk agreements. Zelenskyy said, so to not stress Russia to prevent conflict. Yes, this is what I have also heard from Ukrainians in general, to be like the unique position that some Ukrainians have where they're like, oh, no. Kaya, what's happening? Oh, hello? What? Oh, that's crazy. Okay, this is... What are you doing? What the hell? What are you doing? What is happening? That's crazy. She's like, this is my stream now, please. Oh. Wow, that was wild. No. Kaya plays. What the hell? Every country, Ukrainians as well, have their own version of cranks and insane takes, the litany of insane takes. And one of the most insane takes that I have seen in this process was the position of Ukrainians that also think that this war was directly a consequence of the Biden administration. They hate Biden. They don't like Trump either. They like Zelenskyy, but they also think Biden goaded Russia into invading by falsely claiming that Russia would invade. Like basically threatening, basically forcing Russia's hand to invade. because otherwise he would look like a weak and feckless, powerless leader. I think it's a bit of a crank take. I just think it's funny that is what I've... So Russia is the victim? No, they hate Russia. Also what makes it interesting is that they're not exactly fond of Vladimir Putin either. Yeah, but they've done that before. That's the point. I don't even agree with that take, for the record. My take on it is I think Vladimir Putin wanted to have a long-lasting legacy. The NATO fears are marketing. When you do an unjustifiable action like this as a state, you have a multifaceted front of propaganda. For the people that are hopped up on hyper-nationalist sentiment, you tell them Ukrainians and Russians are one people. There's no such thing as Ukraine, right? For people who care about geopolitical conflict or whatever, you tell them, well, you know, NATO is a real concern. For people who still believe that Russia is a anti-Nazi nation, you say, oh, we're denazifying Ukraine. All of these are bullshit answers. Some of these have more validity than others. It's the same dynamic in America. When America invades a country, liberals want to hear about democratization. For the Republicans, when you're invading a country, invading a foreign nation like a Muslim nation, you just go, yeah, they're barbaric monsters that need to be fucking killed. Okay? But for the liberals, they need an extra oomph. That's why you have to say, oh, we're liberating women. Do you understand? That's what it is. Or gays. Like liberals hear about liberating the gays. Liberating them from their lives, of course, with American bombs. Security state weirdos are still touting Vietnam-era domino theory about how the fall of Ukraine will be the fall of Europe when Putin is having trouble just holding on to the eastern flank of Ukraine. All of this is marketing by the West. I agree. What is the anti-Nazi counterpoint? What do you mean? The Russian military has fucking Nazi divisions as well. So does the American military. The notion that like a country's line of defense features neo-Nazi elements within it is a reason to be an even bigger Nazi is psychotic. That's not how anything works. What do you mean? That's the same. It's funny because that's what Israel claimed as well. Like that's the Israel statement. Israel was like, "Oh, Hamas are Nazis. They are terrorists. They are Nazi terror. They are doing Nazi terror. We have to kill them." Like, okay, I guess that's what Israel's doing too. They're denazifying. Like, they're not. That's why I say it's fucking bullshit. The denazification narrative is just fucking bullshit. Especially because you know what happens when you invade a country that already has a nascent neo-Nazi movement? It's not surprising, but those neo-Nazi movements become the emancipators, the great liberators. They get way more power than they ever would have beforehand. When a larger irredentist power invades your nation, a nation that is built around the national identity of not being Russian, okay? Yeah, of course the fucking neo-Nazis are going to be the best game in town all of a sudden. You've just basically proven all of their anger and resentment. There's no denazification of sorts. It's only a Nazification once that happens. That goes against the argument, though. If your strongest defenses are Nazis, your country is already Nazified. No. That's not how this works. Especially not how it works when you have like internal conflict against neo-Nazi movements that are growing, that are born out of paramilitary groups initially, or like football hooligans that become paramilitary security groups that then find themselves within the ranks of your internal security or your military. That's how Azov came to be. Trump hated this interview. He wants 60 Minutes to lose their license over this. That's amazing. The best option to denazify our country is to fucking delete Twitter. True.
Trench warfare have been killed.
Zelenskyy is Jewish. Why would neo-Nazis elect them? Because not everyone is a fucking neo-Nazi, dude. What are you talking about? Is your argument that there are no Nazi battalions? Because if that's your argument, you're also wrong. Also, dude, don't even get me started on Azov Battalion, because a lot of people get mad at me. People get mad at me for this. Like, okay, first of all, America's a white supremacist nation. We elected Barack Obama twice, okay? Do you think America is not a white supremacist nation? You know, that doesn't mean anything. And secondly, the Azov Battalion stuff is even funnier because don't they have like a fucking rabbi or something in the battalion as well? I saw a photo of a dude from Azov Battalion with a fucking... I don't know. This probably was fake, but like the Azov Battalion and other like neo-Nazi elements within Ukrainian, the Ukrainian forces are also very pro-NATO and also very pro-Israel too simultaneously. It's like weird as fuck. So it's impossible. It's impossible to fully comprehend what's going on there. No, that was a photo of Azov Battalion fighter greeting Jewish rabbi in the city of Uman on Jewish holiday. No. The rabbi is real. I was thinking of a different photo that I think was probably fake. On the crying wall. No, the rabbi one is real. They call him the rabbi. Yeah, I'd say the 2019 parliamentary election showed pretty much no popularity for the far-right parties. They got less than 1% representation there, maybe on paramilitary forces, but sending Nazis to die is not the worst idea ever. No, the irony, of course, is that there's different factions within Ukrainian politics, some of which have been completely eroded. Like the pro-Russian factions have either A, been eroded due to Russia's actions, or B, been eroded by force. But then there's also... then you got the liberals, you got the pro-NATO liberals, then you got the fucking nationalists, like hyper-nationalists, ultra-nationalists. I think that I suspect that the nationalists would probably be more popular than they ever have been, and maybe even more popular than Zelenskyy. I don't know. I haven't looked at the latest polls. But that certainly wasn't the case before this invasion. I'm not even kidding when I say this. If Russia had that kind of power, okay, if they magically were able to, boom, immediately overtake Ukraine, permanently militarily occupy Ukraine, and then move their forces into Poland, I'm not kidding when I say this. I think America wouldn't do anything until it reached like Germany. Okay? I think at that point, America would be entertaining two options. It's like, do we care about the Baltic states? Do we care about Eastern Europe? Like, do we actually care about Eastern Europe? Do we want to defend our NATO countries? Or can we get away with undermining the entire basis for NATO's existence? I'm serious. I think they wouldn't do shit until it touched Western Europe. I legitimately think they would just be like, all right, sorry, big dog, you're on your own. We can't do a complete nuclear annihilation. Now, of course, that's not a instance to worry about, because Russia doesn't have that kind of fucking power. Russia does not have enough power to even go beyond the positions that they've dug themselves into in eastern Ukraine. The U.S. would defend Central and Northern Europe. I include Poland in that, but those countries are strong enough to defend themselves, bad terrain, etc. No way the Russians could do that. Yeah, no, I think that the thing that's stopping all of this from happening is that Russia doesn't have that kind of power. I agree on that. They can't take Ukraine. What is this? Poland is much stronger than before. East Germany is so fucking different than Western Germany, come to think about it. Anyway, that's not happening regardless. I'm just simply saying that. I'm simply stating that, like, for America to actually treat Adolf Hitler like Adolf Hitler, they would have to do a lot more. They would have to do a lot more than fucking Ukraine. I still believe that they would. If Russia had the power, which they don't, but if they had the power, I still believe that they would just like they're not. I don't see America going to war to defend, fucking Lithuania. You know what I mean? Like, we are a very selfish country, chatters. Do you understand? Like, when I say we're a very selfish country, this is kind of what I mean. It's like, oh no, Estonia falling into the hands of Russia. The only reason why they would ever fucking entertain that is because that would mean NATO is nothing. They would basically say, like, NATO, like, being able to invade a NATO nation and not triggering Article 5 would mean that, like, there's no real NATO security cooperation there beyond giving money or beyond these countries basically purchasing our weapons. It depends if the Balkans say thank you. Yeah, they would have, like, the leadership of fucking Estonia in the White House being like, have you said thank you? Have you said thank you? My Egyptian dad used to joke and say, whoever uses America as cover is naked. Yeah. What is happening right now? No. Don't look at me like that. What? What? This is so crazy. What? You want to go outside? You want to go outside? I'm going to have to let her out. Everyone came to the aid of the U.S., who was the only country to invoke Article 5. So if the U.S. doesn't come to else's aid, it just proves how cooked the U.S. is. Wait, what? Yeah. What do you mean everyone came to the aid of the United States?